Welcome everybody, I'm John Wally, and today we're going to be working with certificates in Tenable OT. And more importantly, we're going to be getting rid of that pesky message that comes up saying that your connection is not private. So let's go ahead and move forward. I'm going to hit Advanced, and I'm going to proceed to our main login. I'm going to do the same thing in preparation over on port 8000 so we can get into our cockpit. I'm going to go ahead and log in. Now, once we get logged in, we want to make sure that we turn on our administrative access. All right, so now we're ready to jump in. The first thing that we want to look at, even before we move anywhere else, is our host name. You want to make sure that you set your host name to the beginning of whatever you want your fully qualified domain name to be. In this case, I want it to be OT Core for me. Yours will be whatever you want to name your OT server. The second thing we need to do after we have our host name configured, if you're changing that, you want to make sure you do a full reboot. I know you don't necessarily need it, and a lot of times you can just restart your networking service. But some weird things happen with containers sometime. As a best practice, it's better to just reboot. That way you don't run into any problems down the line. So we're going to go ahead and jump into networking. And from our networking, we want to go into NIC 0. And under NIC 0, I'm going to go to my IPv4 configuration and I'm going to select Edit. What I'm looking for here is to make sure that I have the proper DNS settings. So in this case, the way I've set up my DNS is I have a local DNS and I also have an external DNS. In many cases, it's important that you have an internal DNS, especially when you're dealing with certificates where you may not have a server that's out publicly accessible. So you don't want necessarily like a Google server to be able to know what your internal DNS is on a private IP address range. So we have internal DNS to take care of that for us. So in this case, I've set up an internal DNS that happens to be running on a Windows server on my Active Directory server. And then I also have an external server as well for DNS. If you have a fully built out internal DNS server, you may not need that external server that's out there like I have. That's just because I'm working in a lab environment. Once you have that set up, you're going to want to save that. And again, you may have to reboot for all those settings to take effect. Once we have that done, we can actually move over to our DNS portion. So I'm going to bring up my DNS server. I'm going to bring this over real quick and let me see if I can make this a little bigger so that you can see it. All right, and I went under my type11.net and I'm going to add a DNS entry. I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to say new host. It's going to be an A record, and I know that this is OT Core. And so now my fully qualified domain name will be otcore.type11.net. And I want to tell it where to find it. So I'm going to say at 10.2.9.201. I'm going to go ahead and add my host. It says that it was successfully added, and I'm going to say done. So now I have OT Core in my DNS. So I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to go to terminal. And I'm going to make sure that I'm resolving. So I'm going to go in here and say ping otcore.type11.net. And it looks like I'm resolving. Now mine went really quick because I'm on a local small lab environment. Yours may take a little while to replicate, especially if you have a large force that you're dealing with in your Active Directory environment. For me, it's really, really fast. So don't be surprised if this doesn't work immediately. Sometimes it can take 10, 15, 20 minutes before your DNS will update. Just give it time. All right, so I'm going to stop out of this. We know that we're resolving. So now I can go over and start working in my Tenable OT 443 login on the main interface. So the first thing I want to do is, instead of hitting this IP address, I want to be able to go to my fully qualified domain name. But you're going to see we may end up having a problem here. So I'm going to open up a new tab, and I'm going to say that I want to go to OT Core. .type11.net. I'm going to accept my privacy statement, and you'll see I came up with an error. And I have this bad request or an unregistered redirect. And so to fix this, we can log into Tenable OT security and we can change our URL settings. So I'm going to go back here where I can log in as an IP address first. I'm going to go ahead and log in as my admin account. And I'm going to go down to my local settings. I'm going to go to my system configuration, and then I'm going to go to my device. And under device, you'll see device URLs. And if you look at the description here, it allows me to set multiple URLs so that I don't get that error. And you'll see I can set that to an IP or to a fully qualified domain name. So I'm going to go in and say edit, and we're going to put in our fully qualified domain name here of otcore.type11.net. I'm going to say apply, and it's going to ask me to restart. I'm going to go ahead and restart, and we'll be back as soon as the system starts back up again for us. All right, it looks like we're fully restarted. Now the next thing I want to do is change from going to this IP address to our fully qualified domain name. I'm going to log in. And it seems everything is functioning properly now where we're using our fully qualified domain name. But you'll still see we have certificate errors in here that we need to fix, saying that our site's not secure. So I'm going to go down to local settings. I'm going to go into our system configuration, and I'm going to go to certificates. All right, before we go into actions and uploading this, let's talk a little bit about certificates. So the first thing I want to draw your attention to is whenever you're uploading a certificate, or even when you're creating the certificate, you want to make sure that you have it in an RSA format. There's other ways that you can create certificates nowadays. Like for instance, if your certificate is in an ECDSA format, you're going to come up with some errors within Tenable OT. That error will typically say something like, under the certificate area, you'll get this pop-up and it'll say that the certificate couldn't be read and you should try again later. And the reason why is the actual scripting, the language on the back end of this isn't able to look at that type of a certificate file format at this time. So that means that you'll have to use the RSA format. Now you can go up to 4096, you don't have to worry about the size of that, but you do need to look at the formatting. So if you start getting weird errors, go back, look at the format of your certificate, and make sure that that's all set up properly. Okay, so now I'm going to upload my certificate so that we can get our system all updated and working the way we want it. So I'm going to go to Actions. I'm going to upload my certificate. I'm going to browse for my public key, which is basically my certificate file. And I'm going to select Open. I'm going to do the same thing for my private key. If you've set a passphrase for your private key, you're going to want to put that in, and we're going to say Upload. Now that went really fast on our screen, and I'm sure you didn't see it, but it popped up and it said it was successful. So the next thing we want to do is just clear out our browser. So I'm going to open up a new browser. I'm going to make it in guest mode. And I'm going to come back over here and we'll re-update everything on this side. So now I have my new cleared browser. I'm going to go to my otcore.type11.net. I'm going to hit enter. And now you'll see we no longer have our certificate error. It actually says our connection is secure, and we could actually look and see that our certificate is valid. So hopefully this has been helpful. If it has, please hit that like button. If you want to continue to get notifications on when these videos come out, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the bell, and you'll get notified every time we release a video. Thank you and have a great day.